back, folks. This here is Summerlin, Las Vegas, where I'll be spending the next month of my life grinding out poker, drinking smoothies, seeing some shows, and shooting clay pigeons out of the air. Before we get into all that, I played a session at Red Rock last night that I'm going to take you through. Very short session, about 3 hours long. I ran really well, flopped 4 or 5 sets, made a flush, won a bunch of money, but let's go straight to the hands. The very first hand I'm ever dealt in Vegas, 4-3 suited in the low jack. I raise things up to 15 and immediately get punished when the player to my left 3-bets to 50. Cutoff now overcalls, and now it's back on me, and for this price, I don't think we can fold, so I toss in the call. Off to a flop of 9-4 deuce, 1 heart, 2 diamonds. Check it over, he fires out a bet of 100, cutoff folds. For this price on this board, live, we could probably just make the fold. This is quite indicative of an overpair, but we have a lot of backdoors, a lot of backdoor flushes, backdoor straights we can potentially bluff them off of, and we could also improve to 2-pair trips, so I think a call is okay as well. So I toss in the call, we're off to the turn, which is a beautiful 5 of spades. I check it over, and now he fires out a bet of only 150. This is less than half pot, and just seems like this is one of those bets where you bet small on the turn just to check back river, get to a cheap showdown. And you guys know me, I'm not going to let that happen. So I raise things up right away to 400, put my opponent in a spot, and he goes in the tank. Thinks for quite a while, just thinking it over, grabs calling chips, but as he does it, I can see him look straight at me. Not an amateur. Without him seeing a reaction, looks like he is going to pick up his cards and toss them in the muck. We are picking up a pretty big pot here to win our first ever Vegas hand. On to the next hand. We've got a cutoff raise to 15, button has called, and I'm in the small blind with ace-7 of clubs. I'm going to put on the squeeze play this time, so I raise things up to $75. Big blind, overcalls right away, and then which invites both the other players in. So now we're playing a 4-way pot, really bloated. Comes down to a flop of queen, jack, 4. No hope. We got a backdoor flush draw, but I'm not going to bet here out of position against 3 other players. So I check it over, and it checks the button, who looks like he really wants to bet, but then decides on a check. So we're going to a turn, which is the beautiful 9 of clubs. Pick up the nut flush draw. I think about leading out here, but there's just no way I'm going to be able to go bet if I miss and get it through. So this bet is like, it's only going to work 20% of the time when I do hit my flush, so I'm going to think about a check raise or a check call here. So I check it over, big blind checks, cutoff checks, and now button does indeed bet to 150. If cutoff had bet, I would definitely throw in the check raise, but since button really wanted to bet the flop, I just don't see this working, so I'm just going to toss in the call here. I don't think I'm going to raise off my equity behind, and we've got really good odds to draw here. So I call, big blind folds, and now cutoff is deep in the tank. Tanks for like 3-4 minutes here, and then decides on a call. So we're off to the river, which is an ace of spades. Could possibly be good here. So I check it over, cutoff checks, button thinks for a bit, and then checks it back. So I table my hand. Unfortunately, cutoff had the ace-10 off. Don't really know what he was thinking about for so long in the turn. Maybe he was thinking about a raise, but I think that hand's a pretty clear just call. I don't know. A raise could be good. Maybe that's what he's thinking about, but that one's not going our way. Moving things along, we have a button raise to 15. Small blind is 3-bet, but only to $40. Less than 3x out of position, and I look down at ace-4 of hearts. I'm not really one to cold call, especially this shallow. It's less than 200 big blinds, so I'm going to put in this 4-bet, I'm going to attack this weak sizing, and I make it 105. Button folds, and small blind makes a call. So we're off to a flop of king 7-3 rainbow, 1 heart. Really nice flop for my range, so he checks to me. I'm going to bet a quarter pot here with every single hand I have. 55 to go, and my opponent makes a call. Off to the turn, looking for some help. It is the 7 of clubs. That's not going to be one of them. This hand is probably going to have to start checking back now. We don't have too much value on this board. We got aces, kings, ace, king, king, queen. And a lot of our king X is going to have to start checking back. We also do have some 7x that likes to bet here, but I think we can just bluff club combos and be totally fine here. So I check it back. We're off to the river, which is a really interesting card, the 7 of spades. So now all of my king X can go for value. All my 7s can obviously go for value, and my aces as well. So he checks it over, and since we picked up a lot of value, like even a hand like king 5 suited can now go for value. Definitely going to fire a bet here with a ace blocker. So I fired out for 215, about 2/3 pot, roughly what I go with most of my hands. And my opponent thinks for a bit, makes the fold. Picking up another pot, we're back to even now. We pick up pocket eights on the button. It's folded round to us, so I make things $20 to go. Small blind reaches for more chips and makes it 80. Folds back to me. Button versus small blind. Could possibly throw in the 4-bet. I think I randomized like between 55 and 60 seconds. I would 4-bet, and then the rest of it just calls. So I just call here. We go to a flop of 8-5-4 rainbow. Really good flop for my range. Way better flop for my hand, though. My opponent checks it over. And I don't think he's playing 3-bet or fold out of small blind, as most players live don't. So his range is going to be mostly high card hands and overpairs. So since he doesn't have any nuts on this board, we can bet really big here, like full pot when we do want to bet. I don't know about implementing this live, but it's just something I've been learning about recently. So I fired a bet of 150, puts my opponent in the tank, thinks for a bit, but ultimately just decides to fold. I may just go 2/3 next time because there's no real reason to go pot here, right? I make it pot, the pot's 450 on the turn. We've only got 2 SPR, right? That's like 60% pot bets. I can just go 2/3 and then 80-80, which I think would be much more efficient. But I don't know. If we were super deep, I'd definitely go pot, but we'll see. Still learning. Picking up ace-10 suited in the cutoff, I make it 20 to go, and only the big blind makes the call. So we're heads up to a flop of jack-8-3-2 clubs. Amazing. Big blind now leads out for like 3/4 pot for $30. I think raising's a little bit insane. I have an over, some backdoor straight draws, as well as the nut flush draws. So I'm just going to call in position and see what he wants to do on the turn. Turn is the 4 of clubs. Beautiful. Even better, my opponent keeps firing for 2/3. That's out $60. I think raising is just going to blow him off his hand here. So I make the call, hoping for a blank river. We don't get it. We get one of the worst. We get the worst river in the deck, an 8. Now he fires out a bet of half pot, 125. And I don't love this. I'm obviously calling at least, but I do kind of want to put in a raise, but it's really close. If the jack paired, or the 3 paired, or the 4, this would be a slam dunk $500 raise. Maybe not that big, but with the 8 pairing, his pocket 3s aren't going to improve to a boat. If the 3 paired to make the pocket 3s less likely, but also jack 8 suited is a main concern here. I know there's only 2 combos of it, but yeah, it's close. If the jack paired, though, I feel much better about raising because he can call us with a jack. Right? If he just let out 2 streets with the jack, I raise on the jack pairing, he's obviously going to call trips there. But with the 8, like, oh, it's tough. It's tough. I ultimately decided that I think he can find a hero call with a hand like Queen Jack, and decided to go for the raise to 325. Very ambitious, very close spot. I think it's really close between calling and raising here. Since I do err more on the aggressive side, I think it's okay to slightly expand my value range. So I make it 325. I would only do some nut flush. Anything lower would just be a call. And my opponent snaps. Uh-oh. I table it, and he shows the 8 of hearts. He led into me for 3 streets with just middle pair. That's insane. So knowing that, I really like my raise now, and I'm definitely gonna be raising a little bit lighter against him in the future. This hand is deja vu. Literally 1 orbit away, the exact same position on the cutoff, and I raise pocket aces up to $20, and the exact same player calls from the big blind. We're heads up to a flop, which comes on jack high again. Jack 4 deuce rainbow, a little bit more disconnected, and no flush draw. And once again, my opponent leads into me for $30. This is insane. Not going to raise here, seeing as he just let out for middle pair last time, so I'm just going to call, keep his crazy hands in. I don't care so much about him realizing his equity here. Turn is the King of Hearts. King Jack does get there, not too worried. Now he bets 40. So last time he bet 60 with middle pair. Now he's only betting 40. This seems a little bit weak. I'm going to raise, try to get some value here. So I make it 150 to go. And he doesn't think for long and makes the call. So off to a river, which is the Queen of Diamonds. He checks it to me, and now once again, I'm in a very sticky river spot. There are a lot of 2 pairs available. King, Queen, Queen, Jack, King, Jack. Like a lot of 2 pairs available, and not many hands that are going to call a $300 river bet. Right? He's not going to have King 10 here that let out flop. Right? He's not going to have a Queen. Most he's going to have here is Jack 10 that can call a river bet. Maybe Ace Jack, but that's also very unlikely now because there's 3 of those cards out there. Right, I think it over, and I just don't see any hand that's going to call a $300 river bet that doesn't beat me. Like maybe Ace Jack once in a while. Even that's just going to hate this run out. So this time I decide The betting here is a little bit too thin. I check it back. My opponent announces one pair. I show, and it is good. Who knows if we maybe get some value out, but I don't know. I don't know. We pick up Jack 10 suited. The straddle is live. I'm next to act, and I make things $30. Folds around, and only the big blind and the straddler calls. We're 3 ways in position to a flop of 9-7 deuce rainbow. Checks to me. The strongest hand someone can have here is 9-7 suited. There's only 2 combos of that, so I think betting here is the right play. I'm going to apply a lot of pressure. Our Jack and 10 are definitely probably live. And we do have a gut shot in his backdoors. So I make it 30, big blind folds, and the straddler calls. Off to a beautiful turn, the 5 of hearts. Checks to me, and on this card, I'm going to be doing a ton of checking. Like, a ton of checking. A lot of my overpairs are going to start to check back. Like, aces and kings are going to check back. The lower ones are probably still going to keep betting. But if I do bet, it's going to be large. So I make it full pot, 150. My opponent makes the call. So we're off to a river, looking for some help. It is the 6 of clubs, no help. He checks it to me, and it's now a decision between going all in or folding. I think it over. Also, this graphic's wrong. I think he had around 450 behind. I think I sized up, so it's pot. I think 590 is a little bit too high, but I don't remember. I think it over. My hand has just got terrible removal. Like, just terrible removal. So I decide to give this one up. I check it back, and my opponent shows the 4 deuce of hearts. We probably could have got him off it, but he told me right after the hand that he was calling any bet. So that is insane. Props to him for calling down with a 2. Looks like we saved 450 to 590. On to the next hand. Something you don't see every day. They don't allow chop here with the blinds, so you're forced to play small blind versus big blind. I raise things up with ace king to 15, and my opponent makes a call. Off to a flop of ace 10 9 rainbow. And I think a lot of players make a mistake here of range betting this flop. This is not a range bet flop. Your opponent can still have hands like 10 9 suited, a lot of 8 7s, queen jacks, right? They're gonna have a lot of hands that are going to interact with this board, as well as 2 pairs. But since this is blind versus blind, my opponent is not going to have pocket 9s, pocket 10s, pocket aces, as well as like ace king, ace queen, and most likely ace jack. So I've definitely got a lot stronger hands in my range. So when I do bet, it's not going to be often, and I want it to be big. So I go for $25 here, getting close to pot. My opponent makes a call. Off to a turn, which is quite interesting. It's the king of diamonds. So introduce a flush draw. We do have top 2 now. We're beating pretty much every hand now except for queen jack. And I think we want to go quite large here. Like really big. It sucks when we do run into queen jack, but it's part of the game, right? So I decide on a 150% pot over bet, and I make it 120. My opponent thinks for quite a while. In the tank thinking, and then lets it go. I don't know about these large bet sizes, but I don't mind throwing in a ton more bluffs with these sizes as well. So I'll think about it working into my game. Okay, we're looking down on a limp, and I got pocket jacks next to act. I raise things up to 25 and get 3 bet by the player on my left to 85. We get a cold caller from the button, and it folds back to me, and I randomized 25% 4 bets, and rest of the time call, landed on call, so we are calling this time. Off to a flop of queen 4 deuce rainbow. Really nice flop. Someone might have a queen, but it's nice to know ace or king out there. So I check it over, and the original raiser checks back, which is nice. He could have pocket queen sometimes, but we'll deal with that when it comes to it. Button now fires out a bet of 100. It's like 40%, so I'm not too worried. I toss in the call and hijack fold, so really good situation developing here. We're off to the turn, which is the 9 of clubs. Not going to change much. Pocket 9s improves, but that's about it. I check it over, and it's nice to see my opponent check it back. We go to a beautiful river, probably the best in the deck. Another queen. I think a jack might have been better, but I really like another queen. Makes it very unlikely he's got a queen now, so I'm going to go for some value. About 1/3 seems good. So I fired a bet of 165. Opponent thinks for a bit, and then makes a fold. Couldn't get any value out there, but that's all right. The final hand of this session, I pick up pocket 5s in early position and raise it up to 15. I do get 3 callers, so we're going 4 ways to a flop of 7-5 deuce rainbow. What a session. Checks to me, I'm going to check my entire range on this board. It's just not a great range for my early position opens, and I shouldn't even really have pocket 5s here. So I check it over. Low jack now bets out for 30. Now cutoff calls and big blind calls, and it's back on me. I think I'm going to raise here. I think my pocket pairs are going to be more inclined to call, and then my sets as well as straight draws like 6-8 suited are going to want to raise, as well as 8-9 suited as well. So I raise things up. I meant to make it 165, but I missed 1 green chip, so it's only 140. Original better now folds. cutoff calls, and big blind makes the fold. Off to the turn, which is the Queen of Hearts. Beautiful blank. SPR is getting close to 1, so we don't want to bet too big, but I also don't want him to... I also want to get value from his like 6-8 suited and his 3-4 suited on the turn. So I don't want to go too small here. Like, you probably want to bet around 40% here, but I want to size up a little bit just to get more value from the draws when they can put in money. So I bet half pot 200 here. My opponent makes a call. We go to river, which is a little bit iffy. It's the ace of clubs, so 3-4 suited does get there, but can't be worried about that. He's only got 345 behind. I shove it all in and he snaps. I show and he's got... he showed me an ace and told me he had 2 pairs, so that was actually a really good river for us to get paid. He got a little sticky. Looks like ace 7 suited maybe, something like that, but winning a massive pot here to end the session. That is it for me. That was a really fun session, to be honest. 3 hours, a little bit card dead at the beginning, but who cares when you run that good? I don't think I'm going to play too much more at Red Rock. The games are a little slow. It took quite a while to get onto the 2-5 game. And I also have parking passes downtown on the strip, so I don't even have to pay for parking. It's amazing. I'm going to take you guys through a ton of different casinos over the next few videos, hoping to get through maybe 5 to 10, anything that runs 2-5 and up on a consistent basis. And then I'll probably move to the Bellagio to grind out the 5-10 game for the last 2 to 3 weeks. It has a lower buy-in cap of only 1,500, so it might keep away those god dang Euro regs. They'll mostly play Ari and Win, have like $2,500 or like $3,500 caps, but that's a little bit too high for my bankroll. I'm really happy to sit with 1,500 and 5-10, or I may just grind out some like 1,200 cap 2-5 or 5-5, but save that for another video. I won $1,759 today. Bought in for 1,000, out for 2,759. I'll put the bankroll numbers down there. What a session. Almost recuperated all the losses from that horrible night at Hustler, but always going up, always coming down, but as long as it's more up than down, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching once again.